Welcome to the Dream Life is Real Life podcast with your host, Hanna Hermanson, bringing you real life stories of people who realized their dreams to educate and inspire you to create your legacy of abundance now.
Friends, today we have two amazing guests. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to Hector and Shylean. They are two married entrepreneurs living their dream life. After meeting in 2014, they went on to get married, have a baby, all while starting 4 online businesses that are allowing them to raise their son from home. Shylean has extensive background in fashion and beauty and design, while Hector's expertise lies in marketing and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, my friends.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yes, and it's so fun. I always love chatting with people who I have actually met in real life. And, we are all building these online businesses. We're talking virtually now, but it's always good to hear your voices after having been connected in real life.
It's really cool because not a lot of people get the opportunity to do that. We have so many friends, quote unquote friends on Facebook or followers, but the human connection is so important these days. So it's cool to meet people who aren't, who are actually as cool as they look online.
Yeah. Real friends. Yeah. Hector, I know we connected because I really recognize your Facebook presence and your online presence was about getting real and starting conversations with people. And so I want to know a little bit more about how the two of you connected, hear a little bit more about your story, maybe starting in 2014, or just tell us a little bit how the two of you got into what you're calling dream life, if that's not too vague of a question to start you off.
Yeah, totally. Well, we met back in 2014, and then we both just weren't in. Years, and it was really, I saw her kind of drive and determination. We were working in similar fields, and so I was someone who eventually was in a place in my business where I was able to take a step back and not have to spend so much time working in my business. And she luckily came along, and it was really great because once we got together, I saw that she had so many talents and passions. And for her, they just seemed to come so natural for her. But I was like, you have to monetize this. The marketer and the entrepreneur in me, just saw how easy it would be to turn that into a business. And so right when we were able to, I shut down my kind of brick and mortar operation that I was running at the time. And we both kind of started our online businesses really at the same time. And it was a whirlwind of a journey. But along that time, we were able to pay for a beautiful wedding. And we were able to live down in Southern California, where just the other day, someone told us that we were crazy for the rent that we were paying every month. But it allows us to, have a really comfortable lifestyle. And we both are able to make money from home and raise we're both full-time parents, which is kind of cool. And so it really turned into this dream life that kind of emerged from us just really having our own unique talents and being okay with each other being very, very different from each other. And I think that kind of led into, sprouted into all this other stuff that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's such an interesting perspective to have. Hector as this marketing, brick and mortar business guy, and Shylean having this like design and fashion background. But I know both of you have been able to contribute to each other's businesses. So are you working independently on 2 separate projects right now?
Yeah, we do. We have a ton of different oars in the fire, and I've got a information kind of business going on right now. And, I have an online community. And so that's really picking up a lot of steam. And so that's happening. I also serve clients online, but then she has we're actually just started an e-commerce brand that is geared towards helping really women who want to make it easier for them to decorate. And she can kind of probably talk a little bit easier, a little bit better about it. But we've kind of taken her strengths and her talents and found a way to package it into a subscription box. And so we're excited about that. Just launched this past weekend, and about in a couple of weeks, we went from concept to first sale, and first kind of so that was really cool, and that's happened in the last several weeks.
So in order for this to be happening so quickly for her business, there have to be some just common truths or principles that you guys have learned in all these diverse endeavors you've taken on. So if you had to distill marketing or online business success to just a few principles, what might they be?
I think that she does a good job. She's looking at me right now, shaking her head, saying, "You need to answer." But really, the true talent lies in her and what she can do. In her first business, she was creating tops and outfits out of her crocheting, and people were just asking her, "Hey, can you make me this?" and "Hey, can you make me this?" and she was getting special orders, and it was just, to me, it seemed so obvious that there was a need there, and that anytime that there's a need, I got a marketing degree, and I've just, since I was 17, I've run my own business, and so I've kind of found that when people are asking for something, they'll be willing to pay for it, and if someone is actively asking for it, then oftentimes you don't have to veer very far out from that to turn it into a business or turn it into a product, and so. We just kind of packaged it and branded it, and she did a great job marketing it and creating an Instagram following that really took off. And so I think there was a need there that was great. There was a brand, and she really understands design, and she understands how to make an image look good. And we always laugh because I'm the one that I'll take 15 or 20 pictures on a hike and won't get one of them right. But she just really has that eye for design and how things should look. And so we added that to it. And then, I think with online business and information marketing and coaching, like kind of the spaces that you and I are in, there's a way to do it, frankly. And what I'm learning with her is that it's actually a little bit different selling physical products and, creating a consumer brand. But I think that those are a lot of the fundamentals, or a lot of the things that we have been thinking about over the last couple of weeks as we've gone through from this concept to launch.
Yeah, I have to admit, I kind of shy away when I hear e-commerce or B2B because it does feel like such a different way of marketing or branding when you're not just, like Hector and I are selling our personal brand and a service and information. But I love what you're saying. Like, it comes down to filling a need, and you figure out the way to do that. And when you hear people asking for something, how do you position yourself, whether it's on Instagram, a Facebook community, in real life, or as like an e-commerce store, to help people. And I love that it comes down to that basic filling a need idea.
Yeah, and it's that over and over again, and rinse and repeat. And I think that there is kind of this process of, once you identify a need, can you go through and can you articulate it in the way that makes sense to them? I think that we had a ton of conversations I was like, I don't know this consumer, so help me get into the head of them, and what are they thinking, and what are their interests, and what are their concerns, and how can we create something that really feels that it's speaking to them. And if you can make someone feel like that page or that product or that whatever was really meant for them, you're going to have a much easier time getting them to do whatever you want, whether it's opt in or subscribe or buy or schedule a call or become a client, at whatever degree we're trying to get that customer to the next level of that sales journey.
Yeah. And that's part of the game that we sign up for as entrepreneurs. I think that we're on this journey of like wanting to figure it out, not exactly having the blueprint or the answers, but having that insatiable hunger for sharing our message or reaching our people or filling those needs. So I think you're resonating with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially people who are committed to the journey, who know that it is this constant evolution. And you're making it sound pretty simple and basic. And I think that's part of your expertise, Hector, that you know these things and you understand them on a basic level. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges you faced in building a life around businesses that are always evolving. Have you had any challenges?
Yeah, well, yes. I think if we're speaking real, there were multiple times where it was like, okay, we got a notice on our door. We've got a few days to figure out how we're going to make a few grand, or we've got to figure out how we're going to, like, where we're going to be living. And it was like very early in our journey. And, when I had shut down my business, I had, it was a good income, but once I shut it down, we went through our savings a lot quicker than I had anticipated. And so there was a lot of times where it was just like mentally, like in the back of my head, we were early on in our relationship. So I'm just thankful that she stuck around and she didn't, she was committed to the relationship, because it very easily could have been, we weren't, at times we were traveling a ton, and, when my business was booming, we were, able to travel a lot and eating out a ton. We were, going all these places, and then all of a sudden we started this online business so that we could live this dream life. And we knew that there were going to be some sacrifices, but there was a lot of sacrifices, in that regard. And I think emotionally, and also, we could talk about the fact that we were both working from home and, with each other 24/7. And so that was a growing period where we were just kind of learning how to be around each other all day, every day. And so that was, yeah. And so that was its own process. And then building a business, like all that while, like, there's life going on. And, there was a ton of just personal challenges that came up that, we kind of found ourselves asking us, like, is it ever going to stop? And all the while there was no choice but to keep building our business, because it was the only, in my head, it was the only option that we gave us. And so luckily we're in a good place now, and we have our family meetings a couple times a week, and we were just going over our finances, where we now are able to just be in a much better place than we were, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago. Okay,
so much I'm relating to. Absolutely. I think that there's this allure in this, like, almost like honeymoon butterfly stage, where it's like, we're going to do this. We're all in. We have savings. We'll be fine. And kind of like with anything, like whether it's just dating or starting a new business, those butterflies dissipate a little bit. So you mentioned family meetings, which I love that philosophy, but what were some of the other, like, tactics or mechanisms or routines that you guys implemented so that you are now, like, married and building a family and not on the street bickering?
There's a couple of things. I think there's a lot of personal things that I think we both did, and then there was a lot of business things. So which do you think? What for you would probably be more ideal for the people who are listening? Or should we talk about both? Because
I think both. Yeah, I'd love to hear both perspectives of, like, the tactical stuff, but then also get real with us.
I think one of the biggest things was one book that we both listened to on an early road trip that we took was The 5 Love Languages. And I think that it was a really kind of hallmark book for our relationship, because early on we knew that we knew we loved each other, and we knew that we were trying, but for some reason it wasn't the message wasn't getting through. And the perfect example was, like, we would spend hours together, and we'd get home and she'd tell me that she'd miss me. Like, what are you talking about? You know, I've been with you the whole, like, it was really frustrating. And, you know, we just really learned early on how different of people that we are, and all the way down to the point of we show love naturally differently, and we also receive and experience love and differently. And so if we want to, you know, fill up our person's tank, then we actually have to do things that are not intuitive or not natural. And I think that was a very early growing process. And for me, putting my phone away, not being attached to my phone, not constantly going, you know, checking my news feed, checking my notifications. Early on in my business, I was always on call. And so that just presented a lot of challenges. And then, you know, even for her, just being able to deal with my kind of mad scientistness that would happen. You know, there would be days where I would lock myself up in my room and go into we talk about calling it going into a hole, but I would just need those times to really be creative and work on the business. And that was a sacrifice for her. And so there was a lot of personal give and takes that we both had to make. But I think that, we're both happier for it now. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of the business, I just think early on when I was still running my brick and mortar business before I had made the leap totally into this online world, I was getting up at 4:45 in the morning, and I would work and I would create content and I would do, work on my online business for 2 hours. And then I would go out, drive sometimes an hour to my office, sit in traffic and then work in that business for 8-9 hours, come home and then still try and, have enough for, to be a good, at the time fiance and eventual husband. So there was a lot of just waking up and grinding it out, and a lot of pivoting that happened as well. And it was definitely a growing process for sure. So those two were really the kind of the big things that stand out to me as what really made a big difference for us personally and kind of in our entrepreneurial career.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of self-awareness about the roles you were playing. Like those love languages, I know apply not only to like intimate relationships, but also working relationships and relationships with yourself. And I know we have a lot of moms who listen to this. So Shylean, I would love to know is, oh no, she's not feeling well. Okay. I'm just going to spoiler alert, Hector, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But Shylean stepped away from the interview, which is definitely okay. So I will re-navigate this conversation. We're keeping it real here today.
Back in a few minutes, but she is dealing with some mommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I was going to ask about. I was going to ask about, mom things, and she's living it right now. So we'll let her do
it. She's back, so she can answer and dive into that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go there though about the parenting piece, because you mentioned, the partnership stuff, but you guys are you're working from home, but you're parenting full time. And what have been some of the unexpected occurrences that have happened? I hear JLD, John Lee Dumas on EO Fire. He's interviewed a lot of people who talk about having a child being like the biggest motivator, and they see their income just skyrocket. And as someone who doesn't have a kid, I think it's counterintuitive to me to think that bringing in another life and the stress and the lack of sleep would accelerate your income. So what has your experience been?
Well, I guess if that's the question, I'll take that. And she can maybe talk a little bit more. I think that what's interesting is as soon as we found out that we were pregnant, I started nesting in my own way. And so, I also think for those people, the vast majority is that it's kind of a purpose. They find purpose in their work, and they all of a sudden find a renewed sense of why they're working. And I think that that's really what happened for me early on. And it was a big sacrifice in, like, normally I would have my routine and I would have my time to work on my business. And it would be like, the time where I would be playing or communicating with my team or, creating content or whatever. But now all of a sudden I'm, making bottles and changing diapers and we're, counting and we're, working on standing and so I'm grateful so much for the opportunity to do it, but it definitely was a sacrifice just in that regard. And, I think being a full-time parent, obviously, like, I went through some very large focus issues as well as, like, there was just a ton of work that I had to do on being able to stay on track and stay focused. So I think that, I don't know what the question was really, but that's really what's happened. And so I'm sure I can speak about, some of the mom specific things as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear from, you, Shylean, and just like what have been the, I don't want to say consequences because that makes it sound like it's negative, but perhaps what have been the changes from being your own boss to being a mom boss?
Well, now, I mean, my little guy is my quote-unquote manager, so I pretty much listen to everything that or do whatever he tells me to do. But I think what oh, man, where do I start? Okay. Can you repeat that one more time? I just want to make sure that I answer your question.
Yeah, just like what have the shifts from being your own boss, as entrepreneur, to being a mom and an entrepreneur? What have those changes been like for you? The differences?
Right. So definitely being a mom comes first and making sure that he has everything that he needs. And then I get to work on our business whenever he takes a nap. So definitely it's challenges because once I get into the groove of things, he wakes up and then he's hungry. So then I feed him. But we're now getting into the place where I can entertain him and start to work on things that need to get done. So that's a huge thing now.
And I think that, like, just having a system and a routine for both of us too was big. And one of the podcasts that I was on recently, one of our friends, his name is John Vroman. He has an organization called Front Row, or a podcast called Front Row Dads, and it's also an organization. But he mentioned that one of the best things that I could do as a dad is to make things easier for her. And so really trying to let her get some sleep and make sure that if she can't do her job, then I can't work on my, on the business. And I think that now he's finally getting independent enough where she can now start a new line and she can now rebrand. And over the last, month or so, it's kind of allowed us to create this new launch, but otherwise, she kind of had to sacrifice her brand and sacrifice a lot of it while she was kind of in the later stages of pregnancy and while she was going through those first little bits of after his birth, because it was a big challenge. And so I think that having a routine where we were, I was getting up early and helping, taking care of the baby in the morning, and she would kind of stay up with him overnight, was just something that we couldn't have done if both of us had to work, or if one of us had to, we had to drop them off at daycare. I mean, just the fact that we were in control of our schedules allowed us to really shift it around him. And just now are we getting our time back and our schedule back, but we definitely gave it up to him for the first several months.
Yeah. Yes, you guys are such an inspiration to be on top of all the things you're on top of. And it sounds like you're finding that routine and you're creating space for more of the perhaps innovation or growth and that next step. So what are you guys excited about? What's on the horizon in the next, let's say 2019? What are you guys cooking up for 2019?
So we just launched a monthly subscription box for home decor, and it's called Chic Box. So that I'm really excited about. That and our family will possibly be growing.
So we'll
I wish I could see your faces right now as she says that. Who's looking at who?
Yeah, exactly. We're having a conversation with my mom recently, and similar faces were exchanged. So we'll see what happens in the future, and it's just it's cool because you fight for I think that one obvious draw of entrepreneurship and running your own business and this dream life is money. But I think that both you and I know that that's really just a necessary byproduct. That's actually what comes after the money. That it's really fulfilling or whatever it is. And so we're just frankly excited that we slogged through the early parts of being an entrepreneur, and we kind of put in our time to grow our businesses and grow our brands and grow. We really put in that time and that investment, and now we are able to enjoy some of those things. And it's like we made a lot of those sacrifices where the rewards was our own independence. The rewards was it didn't come in necessarily these lavish cars or watches or whatever it is, but really the reward was the fact that we got to be around each other and do what we wanted and work on what we wanted to when we wanted to. And eventually when we started a family, we were able to be full-time parents, and so I think that was like a big thing, and now we're able to take advantage of that in 2019, and our businesses are growing. We've got a few oars in the fire, and Chic Box is just launched. And it's nice when you put up a website and we say that we're gonna start something, and we have a little soft launch, and then we have sales that come in, and we kind of didn't even know, and we don't even know who the people are that are buying. And so it's just like really cool when you put time in, and then you start to see some of the the fruits of that labor.
Yes, folks, it is about the fruits, and I know it's so tempting. Like, I get frustrated on Facebook sometimes too, and the conversations I have that's like, okay, how do I earn 20K this month? How do I become a six-figure? How do I monetize, make money? And it's like becomes so money-driven when really that's not even why most of us are doing it. It's easy to talk about those outcomes, but like you said, it's these side effects of like being a full-time parent, having fulfillment in the work you do, waking up curious and hungry every day. And so I love that you're drawing attention to that, because I honestly don't know if we talk about it enough. So good stuff. I have just 3 last questions, and I'd love to hear from both of you, hear your answers to this little pop quiz round. Are you up for it?
We're ready.
All right. The first question is, what would you encourage a listener do today, like an action they can take to get closer to their dream life or their dream business?
I think that for me, it's just self-awareness is the first step. There's so many routes, and we've kind of joked about this, but our parents' generation had only a few options to choose from, and they were given vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. And now we walk into a Copstone's and we stand in front of the, the counter for a half hour trying to figure out what we want. And people are doing the same thing with their lives, and they're just standing there looking at their options because they're afraid to make the wrong choices. And so if you can really know who you are and understand what it is that you want, then all of a sudden the right choice and the right option just becomes a lot more clear and a lot easier to make.
Yeah, and I think for me, I would say to just don't be afraid to fail. I know for me, I would be stuck on one idea and be so afraid to pursue it because I wouldn't want to fail. So for me, I would just say just jump in, and again, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, know yourself and own it. Very good. Second question, sort of related, but what is a tangible resource? Like maybe it's a book or a mentor or something you just want to pass out to every listener that will help them along their journey.
For me, I love Amazon, and only because it's like you're going to find whatever you want on there. And I think that getting an Audible account and Prime account was the best thing, because it took away the reason for there was no obstacles really, to getting knowledge. And I think in 2015, I read 50 books that year, and it really changed the trajectory of my business, and it is why I, am here today. And I wouldn't have that if I would say books, but that's not a resource or anything like that. But I would say just, really diving into the library and the wealth of knowledge that is out there, that may not be necessarily on a YouTube video or may not be necessarily in a blog. Some of these deeper concepts, you need to really dive into them, and sometimes it takes a book to do that. So I think for me, that was really a turning point that led to a lot of the other things that happened.
For me, I would say podcast is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tanya Rainier, but her podcast is definitely something that's helped me a ton, and definitely listening to yours as well. So for me, Hector is such a book guide. I'm not. Podcast for me is definitely a huge thing.
I love the way you guys think, educating yourselves in such simple, 2019 ways of Amazon.com and podcasts we can take everywhere. So I don't usually hear those responses. You might be surprised. So like I said, I like the way you guys are thinking. And the last question, this might be a team effort, but where can listeners stay connected with you and learn more about what you're up to?
You guys can follow us on Instagram at Chicbox, and CHIC, capital BOKS.
BOKS. No, no underscores or anything?
Nope, that's it.
CHICBOKS. And right now, I believe there are, as of this recording, there are still some boxes available, and you can buy one box, and you'll get assorted, handcrafted. What's great about it is everything's handmade, and it's sourced from really all over the world. And some of the coolest, she could probably explain it better, but some of the coolest just things that you can add to your home that'll make it easy to decorate. And so there's a ton of options on there to get as well.
I'm definitely checking it out. Before the interview, I was just telling you guys, I just landed from one trip fighting jet lag, and I'm packing my backpack for another trip. And I have to admit, I'm starting to get that man, it would be nice to have a home feeling. So I am adding this to my vision board. As soon as I have a front door of my own, I will definitely be filling it with some chic box. So thank you for sharing that with us. And also, thank you for sharing your time. I always appreciate your perspectives and the work you guys are doing. So down to earth and so inspiring. So any last words of wisdom for listeners today?
Go get chic.
That's right, folks. We'll be back next week with another inspiring guest to help make your dream life your real life. Until then.
You've been learning how to make your dream life your real life with Hanna Hermanson. To get the resources mentioned on today's show and to listen to past episodes, visit www.dreamlifeisreallife.com.